Mind Over Masculinity. I'm your host Avik, and today we are flipping the script on fitness. We are constantly told to build the muscle, get strong, lift heavy. But what if I told you that focusing purely on uh, muscle bulk might not be the key to lifelong health? And what if the real secret to staying mobile, pain free, and independent lies not in bigger muscles, but in smarter muscles that serve and nourish your joints? Joints and the bones, I'll say. Yeah. So, joining me today is the incredible Jeff Belly. So, welcome to the show, Jeff.
Oh, thank you, Avik.
Amazing.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, Jeff, before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all the listeners. Dear listeners, Jeff is a pioneer in joint health and bone strength, a master teacher with over 13,000 teaching hours, and the creator of a revolutionary approach that helped thousands resolve the joint pain and avoid the replacements. So at 61, he's living proof that it's never too late to reclaim your mobility and joy. So, from overcoming a high speed ski accident to redefining joint care through the compression, his message is both the hopeful and radical. So, if you have ever worried about arthritis, joint degeneration, or staying active as you age, then you are going to, want to learn in for this one. So, just be with us and welcome to the show again, Jeff.
Oh, thank you so much.
Amazing. So Jeff, especially the idea that joints crave compression. I really love this term, joint crave compression. That goes against everything. Like most of us have been told, as I mentioned earlier. So if you can explain like what that really means, I mean, how you discovered it.
hmm Yeah, well, as you mentioned in my opening, that ski accident led to this hip pain that I could not resolve. And one day I found myself sitting on the floor
Mm,
and was moving into this position that put more pressure
mm,
into the painful area in my hip. And I thought for a second, whoa, I shouldn't be going into the pain. But then I just trusted and I stayed with it.
okay.
And it began to feel really good. It felt incredible, in fact, and I just stayed and stayed for like 2, 3 minutes, and then I got up and I walked, and I felt a little bit stiff right when I walked up, but
Mm,
it quickly began to feel better. I was walking better, the
mhm,
pain was dissipated even just after that one time, and so I kept coming back to it. Lots of
mm,
different shapes I was using to get into the hip, and as I thought back on my life, I've done this before. I've seen my dad kind of
mm.
do these weird shapes with his body, and I thought back on
Okay.
it, and I thought he was doing it,
Mm,
And then I look out in the fields and I see cows and horses doing it, and I think, whoa, wait a minute.
mm,
Maybe human beings have grown too accustomed to chairs and car seats and, you know,
mm.
modern conveniences like toilets. We don't
Yeah.
need to squat so much anymore, things like that.
Mhm.
And, and, so I just began really experimenting with it.
Uh,
And I have a pretty rich background in anatomy and physiology and
mm,
body work. So my mind naturally went in this direction. And it's
mm,
it's pretty amazing now after about 12 years of doing this,
mm,
I feel just amazing, young and youthful and no pain in my
mm.
body anywhere, no arthritis.
Got it. Got it. And was there any aha moment like after your ski accident, or did this realization unfold over time?
Yeah, there was a lot of pain after the ski accident, and then it was about 6 months, and then
Mm,
I would say that that aha moment was
mm.
sitting in that weird shape, and it just really dawned on me, you know,
Wow.
I've come to the conclusion that joints it's not traction, we don't
mm,
need to put space into them. When you actually go the other direction and you put
mm.
compression into them, they start to feel spacious.
Ah, okay. So, I mean, understood. I mean, uh, that's really a powerful reframe because most of us think that joint as a kind of fragile or needing protection, not something that thrives under pressure. So, yeah.
That's it, exactly.
Hmm.
We've we've become intimidated by moving into the joint, and they seem fragile. And and okay, sometimes in severe degeneration, if it's gone on a long time, they can be a bit
Mm-hmm.
fragile, but I've found it's never too late. And and really what the Avita practice is all about is teaching people
Okay.
how to move into a position
Hmm.
safely and confidently. And
Okay.
if you do it properly and really take your time and close your eyes and have this gentle willingness, it's amazing. I think, many of my students have had that same aha moment where they
Okay.
feel the freedom of
Mm.
actually moving into an area that they thought they should avoid.
Mm.
Pretty cool.
Got it. That's amazing. Yeah. And okay. And also this thing like a lot of fitness culture that emphasizes building muscle mass. But
Yeah.
uh, at the same time, you talk about repurposing the muscles to support joints and bones instead of just bulking up. So, what's the downside of traditional muscle building, and uh, what does it mean to repurpose the muscles? Yeah.
Yeah. That's the $1,000,000 question. And it's what I love about the title of your show, Mind Over Masculinity. And because I feel like the whole world has that upside down where we can build up our muscle to generate confidence and a sense of self, and that can be helpful. But then we get carried away with it, and like we try to become the
Mm.
the um, the symbol of health by displaying our muscles and showing our muscles
Okay.
because we can see them. And
Mm.
and yes, okay, we can feel stronger, we can quote unquote look better, but is it really healthy? And what I have found, well, two things. One
Okay.
is when you use the muscles to
Mm.
make your joints healthy, the muscles
Mm.
tend to take care of themselves. They don't get bigger, but they
Mm.
do get toned. That they tonify. I don't think that's a word, but I like the idea of muscles
Mm.
toning and then developing kind of a resiliency and a
Mm.
and um y- suppleness. We want supple
Correct.
muscles, and they get supple when we start to use them fully. And when we
Mm.
begin to use them a little more fully and approach the joints in this thoughtful way, the muscles themselves just get healthy and and supple and toned. Uh and I would take that any day over big muscles and
Mm.
unhealthy joints because we don't go to doctors to get muscle replacements. We're going for our bones and joints. That's where the problems are. So
Okay.
that's just um, it's just a big paradigm shift.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Yeah. So, also here thing is like, is there a particular type of strength training or maybe the common gym practices that you see actually making joint tissues worse over time?
Wow. What a great
Mm.
question, Avik. Okay. So when we develop a restriction or an issue around a joint,
Mm.
what happens? It gets a little painful. and then we avoid that movement.
mm,
And then we may even, if it's in the hip or the knee or the ankle or something like that, we may start to limp. And then so we could say the restriction
mhm.
begins to create a compensation pattern.
Great.
And sometimes patterns, we can have a particularly unique
Mm,
outlook on life. Maybe, like for me, when I was a kid, I was a bit reclusive and my body posture showed that.
mm,
And so sometimes the patterns can lead to restrictions, and then the restrictions reinforce the patterns. And that's how you can look out
yeah,
your window or sit on the street and watch all these bodies walk by with different ways of walking and different patterns. You start to see that. So
yeah.
if you take, if you go to the gym
Mm,
and you start pushing weights and lifting weights to make your muscles stronger,
mm,
most of the time we we work out in the very pattern
mm,
that is working against us. So you can make your muscles strong and actually reinforce the compensations that are
mm.
causing joint issues.
Okay.
And so I often have this term, when we come into the various shapes and these positions and shapes that we use and the movements that come with them
Mhm,
are very unique. A lot of it is done on the floor, and we put ourselves in a different relationship to gravity so we don't have to work that hard.
mm,
What we find, Avik, is that we have so much resistance built in.
mm,
There's so much resistance in the shoulder or in the hip or in the connective tissue that holds it all together.
okay.
And so what we do is for example, I might
Mm,
lie on my back and have my knees bent, feet on the floor, right? You can imagine lying on your back on the floor. And then imagine moving both hands up toward the ceiling,
mm,
kind of like Frankenstein, like Frankenstein lying on his back and hands straight up toward the ceiling. And then you activate the triceps and extend the elbows and you spread your fingers wide. Okay, there's compression going on. Even right now, just sitting, if you spread your fingers really wide and try to stretch the skin of your palms,
mm,
there's a stretchy feeling on the front of your hand on the palm, but there's compression in the knuckles and the back of your hand. And then if you make a fist, it all changes. The compression's on the front, the releases on the back.
exactly.
So back to the position. If you're lying on your back, knees bent,
Mm,
feet on the floor, and your hands are straight up toward the ceiling, your arms are straight. Then
mhm,
you reach for the ceiling and you make a slow arc overhead toward the floor behind your head. Okay, that's the same movement that we'd have standing up. Or if
mm,
you're sitting in a chair, and you just take your arms and move them straight up toward the ceiling, then we're fighting gravity. And so by doing it on your back, we take gravity out of the equation.
mm,
And that way we can take a lot of time, 2, 3 minutes, in fact, to lower slowly overhead.
mm.
Almost everyone will bump into resistance as you move your hand toward the floor.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And and then what do? Our eyes are closed. We don't get competitive. You
Mm,
you you close your eyes and you merge with that resistance. You welcome it and you stay with it because that resistance, that unused part of your
mm,
shoulder is where the arthritis starts to develop.
yeah.
And so we're simultaneously using the resistance, working with it, unwinding the pattern, calming down the nervous system,
Mm,
getting the muscles to release and become more supple as we put the healing compression into the shoulder joint. All that's going on at the same time. And man, it's amazing how well it works. Now,
mm,
for some people, it may take it could take 6 months to get your hand to the floor or even longer. But but so be it. We just keep coming back, and all the time, the muscles are getting stronger. They may not be bigger, but they're getting healthier and stronger.
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
Makes
Amazing.
sense?
Exactly. Exactly makes sense.
It's very different.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Lovely. And also, like, this is definitely the question which I love to ask. I mean, uh, at 61, I mean, you are not just maintaining, you are thriving. So,
I feel okay, yeah.
yeah. So for those who feels like it's too late to improve their joint health and all, so what your message to them? How can they start reclaiming mobility, uh, and no matter their age or the condition is?
Yeah. Well, um, I guess the first thing I would recommend, it's such a paradigm shift, it's such a new way of thinking.
Hmm.
Um, the only way I know of is to go
Yeah.
online and try some classes with me. I don't wanna turn this into a sales pitch, but,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Evita Yoga Online.com, and I do have some free classes there. You can get started. I also have my book coming out, Mobility for Life, and you can find that at mobilityforlifebook.com and, um, and read about it and learn about it and experiment a little bit with it. And you can also, if money's tight, if those things are outside of affordability, um, and by the way, the subscription that I have online, I feel like it's all very affordable, and I just want to make this available to as many people as possible because it's so simple and it works. But you can also begin to experiment a little bit the way I did and um, begin to very slowly and thoughtfully approach the pain in your joints that you thought you should avoid. And you might start to feel the miraculous changes occur because we all have this physiology inside us. It's cleansing and restoring and rejuvenating. And I think of it as shining light on a problem, like shining light on a shadow. Where's the shadow when the light comes? Where's the pain when we actually welcome it and embrace it and give it the love and pressure and compression that it's really wanting?
Very true. Yeah. And I was also wondering one more thing, like, do you believe that we have underestimated the body's ability to, uh how shall I put it, like, ability to recover or remodel later in the life?
Yeah, I think we've dramatically underestimated that. You just used a
Mhm.
medical term, remodel. Doctors use that. They
Exactly.
know that term,
Yeah.
but they don't, and they will all agree with the physiology. In my book, I explain what's happening inside your joints when you put the pressure on it and how cleansing and helpful it is. Part of that is cleansing, part of it is remodeling. And we have these little cells, osteoblasts and osteoclasts and osteocytes, these little cells. We have the same ones for bone and cartilage. They all are activated when we put pressure on them. So you can literally start to change the shape of a joint. You can uh, begin to cleanse. Some of these little cells are like Pac-Men. They go in and they metabolize and absorb and take away the injured, unused areas, and then simultaneously the osteoblasts come in and they lay down new bone. It's all stimulated with pressure, and that's why, like an astronaut goes into space, it takes them sometimes 3 to 6 weeks just to get a regular healthy walk back because they've lost so much bone mass and muscle mass. Being in space, there's no pressure. And so we just start to put all these things together by the way animals move and rest. It's really how they rest almost all day long. They're shifting from one position to another, putting pressure into their joints and bones. We don't do that anymore as humans. And so and that's what I want to show people how to do is actually we sometimes I joke we just kind of lay around and get better. It doesn't take that much work to really start to
Exactly.
clean clean your body up, you know.
Yeah. Well, amazing. I really love that. I mean, oh, so encouraging. I mean, I think a lot of people need to hear that resilience. I mean, uh, like resilience doesn't have an expiration date. Again,
Yeah,
it's a medical term.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can just lay around and
Yeah.
get better, but
Yeah.
we can't be complacent. You
Yeah.
can't just lay in the same position all the time.
Mm.
You gotta kind of adjust into the pain a little bit. And then the
Yeah.
pain, you know it's working for you because the pain starts to change and it becomes very
Mm.
inviting. I call that healing sensation.
Yeah. Exactly. And like I was I was also mentioning in the beginning about that we will also try to uh, um, discuss about some of the contradictory areas, like what people can think, or maybe because these things I'll not say the name or something, but yes, I was reading somewhere, and so they also checked few of the comments. So I found that there are people, uh, even I would say experts, not only people,
Hmm.
obviously people, but they're experts also. So uh, they argue or they say that heavy strength training is skill, or it's still a key for the bone density and the longevity. uh,
Mm.
so do you see a conflict between this, like building strength and protecting joints, or it is more about how we train it? So what do you have to say
Yeah.
on this?
Yeah. How you do it is everything. And, and yes, it's true that weightlifting does help the bones for sure. But sometimes, like I mentioned, if the weight is too heavy, then we end up working in a pattern that doesn't really unwind the deeper problem because we want a better way to walk. We want a better way to move. We don't, and strength isn't always the way to do that. Sometimes, well, oftentimes there's an undoing that has to happen. We have to undo what's working against us. And we need a way to realize what's working against us, and that's what the shapes do. They just, like I said earlier, they shine light on the problem so it can be really simultaneously released and undone. So while it's true that weight lifting is good for the bones, the approach that most people take doesn't really get to the joints.
Exactly.
And if you if you went from, I mean, really, you need to reduce the weight down to about 3 pounds
Mm-hmm.
just to work on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Eh, Very, very lightweight. And then you start moving into the restriction. But then I would
Mm.
say, I would take any person that I bumped into in a gym and I'd say,
Mm.
set the weight down. Let's do that same movement with no weight lying on your back. Now do that movement
Mm.
and tell me what you feel. Go slow,
Exactly.
find the sticking point and stay with it.
Mm.
That's where the change occurs because, yeah, we want strong bones, but what
Exactly.
good are strong bones without healthy, clean, strong
Mm.
joints?
It's all about the habit that we training our body. Am I correct? Right?
Mhm. Yeah.
because
The habit
I
of
feel, yeah.
pushing the body
Mm.
is like we wanna have a certain look, a certain appearance, and it kinda makes us feel good temporarily, but in the long run, it can kinda work against it. Is that what you're saying, kinda?
Yeah, exactly. Because I'll just share the same that happened with me. So earlier, I also used to do gymming. So I started gymming when I was in 20s.
Mhm.
So 5 6 years I did, and prior to that, I used to do taekwondo, and
Mhm.
then somehow during fighting in taekwondo, nothing happened to my leg, because in taekwondo legs are used, but somehow I fall, and my right side of my this shoulder bone got hurt, and so because of that I had to put down weights. But while I was taking the weights for the shoulder, like you were mentioning, for the shoulder only, shoulder and for back when I used to do. So then later on, the trainer who was there, so he mentioned that a week you do one thing this way. If you do it, I mean, I used to put the weights more, and then he said, low, you start with low weight and you do the reps more, and
Mm.
you start feeling those areas, and slowly it work, and it actually worked also, I'd say. So this is what I was saying. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, slowing down and going deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, bones are slow. We gotta
Mm,
slow way down for the bones. They have a slow, grounded depth to them, and to get to them, we have to slow down and often work through the restrictions in the soft tissue, the muscles and the connective tissue.
mm.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, exactly true. And yeah, and now I am more into cardio. So and
Mhm,
it has its own feeling as well. So yeah,
mhm,
really loving that. Yes.
mhm.
Ah, great, lovely. So
Beautiful.
lovely. I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, uh, thank you so much, Jeff. This is really such an eye-opening conversation, and uh,
Mm,
personally, I have to say I am walking away with totally new appreciation with for my joints, and for the role our muscles play in supporting over lifetime. So that's amazing. Thank you so
mhm.
much for sharing this.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on your show.
Exactly. And for the listeners, I have to mention, like, if you are tired of this grind harder, push more kind of approach, or if you have, I mean, if you're worried about arthritis, mobility, or just want to feel good in your body again, then check out Jeff's work. His message is very, uh, truly revolutionary, I would say. And as always, I'll put all the links into the show notes so that you can easily reach out to Jeff and check out his work. And if this episode has sparked a light bulb moment for you, then share it with a friend, family, or someone who actually need to listen to this. And leave us a review and stay tuned for more conversations on creating healthy mind and a healthy life at every age. So until next time, move well, move wisely, and move with the joy. So thank you so much.